In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little differently. We've all said that. And that's what Donald Trump Jr. said in an interview today about a meeting he arranged with a Russian lawyer who he believed was a Russian government official who was eager to help Donald Trump become president by delivering Russian government dirt on Hillary Clinton. Today, Donald Trump Jr. released the emails arranging that meeting, having been told that the New York Times was about to publish those same emails in their entirety. In that interview today, Donald Trump Jr. said the reason he handled the meeting the way he did was that, quote, things are going a million miles an hour. You know what it's like to be on a campaign? We just won Indiana, but we're talking about a contested convention. Things are going a million miles an hour. Every other presidential campaign that has managed to not get investigated by the FBI for collusion with Russia, which is to say, every other presidential campaign in American history has, by the summer of the campaign year, become a very fast-moving operation. No one has ever been detached from reality enough to describe it as a million miles an hour, but it can feel pretty high speed, just like when you're driving on the interstate highway system at high speed. And if you violate the law on the interstate highway system at high speed, you aren't going to be able to tell the cops it happened because you were going a million miles an hour. That's Donald Trump Jr.'s big excuse tonight, a million miles an hour. In a preview of what he will tell the FBI if he agrees to be interviewed by the special prosecutors investigators, Donald Trump Jr. said nothing came of the meeting because the Russian woman he met with wanted to talk about adoption instead of destroying Hillary Clinton's campaign. That story will probably work for Donald Trump Jr. as the investigation proceeds, because this is not a Donald Trump Jr. story, meaning he is not the person in the most trouble in this story. Donald Trump Jr. is now serving as a very convenient heat shield for his brother-in-law, Jared Kushner, who was also in that meeting and was included on the emails entitled Russia, Clinton, Private and Confidential, the emails that set up that meeting. Donald Jr. might face some legal liability for soliciting something of value to a federal campaign from a foreign citizen. That is against the law, but it is not clear that the law could be applied to this kind of meeting. Jared Kushner is facing a much more serious criminal liability as a result of simply having received that email. That alone, the email, is a serious criminal issue for Jared Kushner. And an even heavier criminal liability is facing Jared Kushner for having attended that meeting, for having gone in that room, for having sat there. Because Jared Kushner was the only person in that meeting, the only person in that room who 6 months later found himself filling out the federal government's standard Form 86 questionnaire for national security positions. He had to fill out this form to obtain a national security clearance. The very first words on the form are about what happens to you if you don't tell the truth. Failure to answer any questions completely and truthfully could result in an adverse personnel reaction against you, including loss of employment. And in the line right above where you enter your name, it says, I have read the instructions and I understand that if I withhold, misrepresent, or falsify information on this form, I am subject to the penalties for inaccurate or false statement per U.S. Criminal Code Title 18, Section 1001. Right beside that sentence is a box to check yes or no. I have read the instructions and I understand that if I withhold, misrepresent, or falsify information on this form, I am subject to the penalties for inaccurate or false statement per the U.S. Criminal Code. It is right there, right above the spot where you fill your name in on the form. It's the first thing you see. And if you don't check yes in that box, they don't bother to read the rest of the form. So Jared Kushner checked yes. He checked yes, that he knew that it's a crime, a federal crime, to withhold any information. He knew that. He checked the box yes. And then he withheld and misrepresented information on this form. He did not tell the truth on that form. He did not include a meeting that he had with the Russian ambassador where he was joined by Michael Flynn, and now we know he did not include the meeting with the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, who was presented to Jared Kushner in that email and in that room as a Russian government official. And for that, Jared Kushner is facing 5 years tonight. 5 years. That's the maximum penalty Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller could seek if Jared Kushner is prosecuted and convicted for withholding, misrepresenting, and falsifying information on Standard Form 86. Donald Trump Jr. isn't in that kind of trouble tonight, not 5 years worth of trouble. If there's legal liability for Donald Trump Jr. in that meeting, it is in the untested waters of campaign finance law normally administered toothlessly by the Federal Election Commission. It is within Robert Mueller's rights to investigate Donald Trump Jr.'s conduct in arranging that meeting and conducting that meeting, but a criminal prosecution of Donald Trump Jr. for that meeting is unlikely. The campaign finance law that was designed to swing into criminal action over a meeting like that was really in anticipation of the possibility of someone like Donald Trump Jr. accepting a big bag of cash in that room. It was about taking things of value thought to be of monetary value. For Robert Mueller, Donald Trump Jr. was a bit player in that meeting. It's all about Jared Kushner. Everyone in the Trump family surely knows this tonight. Their lawyers, no doubt, told them weeks ago when Jared Kushner amended his Standard Form 86 with the disclosure that he attended that meeting with Natalia Veselnitskaya and Paul Manafort and Donald Jr. Surely the lawyers explained to the family right away exactly who faces the big criminal liability for that meeting. And surely at that point, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and her father had to begin to wonder if it was such a good idea for Jared Kushner to move down to Washington, take a job in the White House, and fill out Standard Form 86. If Jared Kushner didn't do that, if he didn't try to become, in effect, the shadow president to the president working in the White House with full jurisdiction over whatever he wants to have full jurisdiction over, Jared Kushner would be in the same boat as Donald Trump Jr. tonight. And instead, Jared Kushner is facing 5 years. And Donald Trump Jr. is saying, in retrospect, probably I would have done things a little differently. Is that what Jared Kushner's wife is telling him tonight? Is that what he's telling her? In retrospect, we probably should have done things a little differently. We probably should have stayed in New York in the real estate business. We probably shouldn't have decided to take jobs in the White House and try to take over the government. But that's what Jared Kushner decided to do. And before his father-in-law handed over the government to him, the government handed him Standard Form 86 with warnings all over it that it is a federal crime to withhold, misrepresent, or falsify information on this form. Jared Kushner's going to have only one defense when he has to testify under oath about this to Congress and the special prosecutor. I forgot. I forgot that meeting with Paul Manafort and Donald Jr. and Natalia Veselnitskaya. Here is who Jared Kushner is going to have to claim under oath that he forgot.
It's quite possible that maybe they were looking for such information. They wanted it so badly.
What will be the credibility of his insistence that he simply forgot about meeting her? Jared Kushner will then be asked, how many meetings did he have in Trump Tower during the campaign with Russian women who could not speak English and arrived with their own interpreter? When Donald Trump Jr. testifies, I forgot, his credibility about forgetting will be tested. And Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller will have to ask himself if he thinks a Washington, D.C. jury will believe that Jared Kushner forgot Natalia Veselnitskaya and her translator. People in Jared Kushner's position usually don't like to take that risk, and so they often cooperate with federal prosecutors and offer to help the prosecutor on any matter where they might be able to help. Michael Flynn, who is also facing 5 years for the same kind of violation on his security clearance application, has already publicly offered to talk to the FBI if they will give him immunity. And the very bad news for Jared Kushner is if Robert Mueller has already made a deal with Michael Flynn, he might not need to make a deal with Jared Kushner. There might not be a way for Jared Kushner to talk his way out of this with the special prosecutor. In retrospect, Jared probably would have done things a little differently.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.